Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Muhammad Zafrullah. Course title is Analytical Chemistry, and this is of our third lecture about air analysis. Key concepts which we will discuss in this lecture is sampling classification, quality control and quality assurance, shipping and storage of air samples. Sampling classification. As we discussed that selecting an appropriate method helps to ensure that an analysis is accurate. It does not guarantee, however, that the result of the analysis will be sufficient to solve the problem under investigation or that a proposed answer will be correct. These letters concerns are addressed by carefully collecting the sample to be analyzed. A proper sampling strategy ensures that the samples are representative of the material from which they are taken. Biased or non-representative sampling and contamination of samples during or after their collection are two sources of sampling errors that can lead to the significant errors. It is important to realize that sampling errors are completely independent of analysis error. As a result, sampling errors cannot be corrected by evaluating a reagent blank. Now, what is the importance of sampling? When a manufacturer produces a chemical they wish to list as ACR, ACS reagent grade, they must demonstrate that it conforms to specifications established by the American Chemical Society. So, for example, ACS specification for sodium bicarbonate requires that the concentration of iron be less than or equal to 0.001% weight by weight. To verify that a production lot meets this standard, the manufacturer performs a quantitative analysis, reporting the result on the product's label. Because it is im- uh, impractical to analyze the entire production lot, its properties are estimated from limited sampling. Several samples are collected and analyzed, and the resulting mean X and standard deviation S are used to establish a confidence interval for the production lots through mean. So, sampling is important. Sampling errors are introduced whenever we extrapolate from a sample to its reagent population. To minimize sampling error, we must collect the right samples. Similarly, we say that designing a sampling plan is also important. What is sampling plan? A plan that ensures that a representative sample is collected. However, we have to collect samples. 5 questions should be considered when designing a sampling plan. Number one question is that from where within the target population should sample be collected. So for that, sampling errors occurs when a sample's composition is not identical to that of the population from which it is drawn. When the material being sampled is homogeneous, Individual samples can be taken without regard to possible sampling error. Unfortunately, in most situations, the target population is heterogeneous in either time or space. As a result of settling, for example, medication available as oral suspension may have a higher concentration of their active ingredients at the bottom of the container. Clinical samples such as blood or urine frequently show a temporal heterogeneity. A patient's blood glucose level, for instance, will change in response to eating, medication, or exercise. Other systems show both spatial and temporal heterogeneities. The concentration of dissolved oxygen in a lab shows a temporal heterogeneity due to the change in seasons, whereas point source of pollution may produce a spatial heterogeneity. Therefore, we classify samples into different classes. It may be random sampling. Random sample, a sample collected at random from the targeted population. It may be judgmental sample. The opposite of random sampling is selective or judgmental sampling, in which we use available information about the target population to help select samples, because assumptions about the target population are included in the sample plan. Judgmental sampling is more biased than random sampling. However, fewer samples are required. Judgmental sampling is common when we wish to limit the number of independent variables influencing the result of an analysis. For example, a researcher studying the bioaccumulation of polychlorinated biphenyls in fish pool may choose to exclude fish that are too small or other appear diseases. Judgmental sampling is also encountered in many protocols in which sample to be collected is specifically defined by the regulatory agency. Similarly, sampling may be systematic. Random sampling and judgmental sampling represents extremes in bias and the number of samples needed to accurately characterize the target population. Systematic sampling falls in between these extremes. It may be it may be stratified sampling. Another combination of three primary approaches to sampling is judgmental, random, or stratified sampling. Many target population are conveniently subdivided into distinct units or strata. For example, in determining concentration of particulate lead in urban air, the target population can be subdivided by particle size. In this case, sample can be collected in two ways. In random sampling, the difference in the strata are ignored and individual samples are collected at random from the entire target population. In stratified sampling, the target population is divided into strata. The random samples are collected from within each stratum. Strata are analyzed separately and their respective means are pooled to give an overall mean from the target population. The advantage of stratified sampling is that the composition of each stratum is often more heterogeneous than that of entire target population. When true sampling variance for each stratum is less than that when the target population is treated as a single unit. As a result, the overall sampling variance for stratified sampling is always at least as good as the as and often better than obtained by simple random sampling. Number two question is what type of sample should be collected? After determining where to collect sample, the next step in designing a sampling plan is to decide what type of sample to collect. Three methods are commonly used to obtain samples: grab sampling, composite sampling, and in situ sampling. Grab sampling, a single sample removed from the target population. Composite sampling, several grab samples combined to form a single sample. And in situ sampling is that sampling done within the population without physically removing the samples. For example, the pH of a solution moving through an industrial production line can be continually monitored by immersing a pH electrode within the solution flow. So here two classifications are discussed uh, that are used for air sampling. Number one is grab sampling, instantaneous or short-term sampling, and integrated sampling, which may be average or long-term sampling. Quality control and quality assurance are very important for air sampling. QA and QC samples are incorporated into air sampling investigation in order to enhance sample integrity, increase the confidence of analytical data, and to prevent false positive caused by contamination. So, sampling classification are discussed here too, and quality control and quality assurance are also important in air sampling. Now come to the next slide. Shipping and storage. Shipping and storage is also important for air sampling. For shipping and storage, fit the open ends of the sample tubes with rubber stoppers or plastic caps and place in plastic bags. Sample tubes are discussed in previous lecture number 2. These sample tubes are fitted with rubber stoppers or plastic caps and kept in a plastic bag. If resin jars are used, double wrap the jars in plastic bags and secure with rubber bands. Immediately place sample in a container with dry ice. After that, the sample is placed in a container with dry ice. So rubber stopper is used for sample tubes and placed in plastic bags, and resin jars are wrapped 2 times in plastic jars with rubber bands, and they are kept in dry ice in a container. Now come to the next slide. Place cardboard or paper on top of sample containers and then place the dry ice on top to prevent breakage and to maximize cooling. So on the top of the sample, dry ice is placed to maximize cooling. Ship and store air samples on dry ice at minus 70 degrees centigrade until analysis. So temperature is decreased with the help of dry ice. Less volatile compounds will store well at standard freezer temperature of minus 18 degrees centigrade. And similarly, here discussed that the less volatile compounds are stored at minus 18 degrees centigrade. Now question is that what is dry ice? Dry ice is the solid form of carbon dioxide. It is used primarily as a cooling agent. Its advantages include lower temperature than that of water ice and other substances. Now come to the next slide. Consult the analyzing chemist or analytical chemist to determine the volatility or storage stability of the pesticide of interest. It is preferable to store pesticide residue sample at -70 degrees centigrade. If dry ice is not available, use any form of refrigeration in the following order of desirability. Freezer may be used to kept to keep cool the sample. Similarly, refrigerators may be used to keep the sample at low temperature. Similarly, blue ice and wet ice are also used to cool the sample or to store the samples. Blue ice occurs when snow falls on a glacier, is compressed and become part of the glacier. A large piece of compressed ice or a glacier similarly appears blue. The blue color is sometimes wrongly attributed to Rayleigh scattering, which is responsible for the color of the sky. So, blue ice actually produced when snow falls on a glacier and is compressed and becomes part of the glacier and it appears blue in color. So this is called blue ice. And wet ice is your average ice from the ice machine, i.e. frozen water, which you need if you going to throw out component cells. Dry ice will just keep them frozen around -20 degrees centigrade. So wet ice is common and blue ice is produced in glaciers. In this slide, it is discussed that the temperature of the sample should be kept low with different uh, techniques or different instruments. We may use freezer, refrigerators, or use blue ice or wet ice to store sample in a cold place. Now come to the next slide. A refrigerator maintains a temperature few degrees above the freezing point of water. Optimum temperature range for perishable food storage is 3 to 5 degrees centigrade, or we can say that 37 to 41 Fahrenheit degrees centigrade, while a freezer keeps the temperature below the freezing point of water. So, freezer may be used to store the air samples. Now, come to the next slide. Blue ice occurs when snow falls on a glacier, is compressed and become part of the glacier. Air bubbles are squeezed out and ice crystals enlarge, making the ice appear blue, while dry ice is frozen or compressed carbon dioxide. So this is the difference between the blue ice and dry ice. Blue ice is produced in glacier, while dry ice is actually frozen or compressed carbon dioxide. As discussed in previous discussion that quality control and quality assurance are also important in air sampling. The difference between the quality assurance and quality control is that quality control is product oriented, while quality assurance is process oriented. Quality control is testing checks the quality of the product, and it classifies under the domain of quality control, while QC ensures the results of what you have done as what you have done are as per your expectations. So basic difference between quality assurance and quality control is that quality control is product oriented and quality assurance is process oriented. So both process orientation and product orientation are important during air sampling. Further, you have discussed earlier that there are 7 tools for quality control. These may be cause and effect diagram or Ishikawa diagram, fishbone diagram. Number 2, check sheets, control chart, histogram, Pareto chart, scatter diagram, design of experiments. All these factors are the tools of quality control. While quality assurance activities include a planned system of review procedures conducted by personnel not directly involved in the inventory compilation development process. Reviews, preferably by independent third parties, should be performed upon a finalized inventory following the implementation of QC procedures. Review verify that the data quality objectives were met. Ensure that the inventory represents the best possible estimates of emissions and skin and sinks given the current state of scientific knowledge and data available, and support the effectiveness of the QC program or quality assurance. Quality assurance is a way of preventing mistakes or defects in the manufactured product and avoiding problems when delivering solutions or services to the customer. Now, what is the difference between quality control and quality assurance? Quality control includes the operational techniques and activities that are used to fulfill requirement for quality, whereas quality assurance all those planned and systematic activities implemented to provide adequate confidence that our entity will fulfill requirement for quality. Quality control is the product, while quality assurance discussed about process. Quality control is reactive, quality assurance is proactive. Quality control includes line function, quality assurance includes staff function. Quality control finds the defect and quality assurance prevent defect. So this is the about quality control and quality assurance. Now come to the next slide. Here is the assignment, that analysis of any environmental sample, one research article for each student. Here you have to again find out another research article in which you have to discuss that environmental sample or any air sample which is discussed, and especially you have to focus on the shipping and storage of the air samples in the assignment. Now, at the end of this lecture number 3, I will summarize all the 3 lectures that we discussed about air sampling or air analysis. At the start, we discussed that there are 3 types of air samplers that are mostly used. They may be high volume, low volume, and personal samplers. And high volume samplers, uh, use resin jar, while low volume samplers uses resin tubes. After that, we discussed about the equipments required for air sampling. They may be sample calibrator, sample media, resin jar or resin tube to collect air samples, timer, portable generator, extension cord, duct tape, disposable gloves, silicone grease, plastic bags, ice chest, dry ice, weather recording instrument, field notebook, and label tape to mark and identify sample container. So we use these equipments for air sampling. After that, we discussed about the collection of air sampling. We discussed different types of air samplers. They may be high volume, low volume, and in high volume we use resin jar and in which 125 ml resin was used, whereas in low volume we uses resin tube in which 15 ml resin is used. After that, we discussed that we can use bubble calibrator to calibrate over air samplers. In this lecture, we discussed that sampling classification. There are different classification of sampling, and here we discussed about the grab sampling, which may be instantaneous or short-term sampling, and number two is integrated sampling, which may be average or long-term sampling. After that, we discussed that the quality control and quality assurance are both important for the air sampling. After that, we discussed that shipping and storage, that how can we store our samples. In this uh, uh, portion, we discussed that we can store samples by using freezers, refrigerator, blue ice, and wet ice. In shipping and storage, we discussed that uh, we fit the tubes, sample tubes with the stopper, rubber stopper, or plastic caps. And after that we placed our sample in a rubber bag, and if we use resin jar, then double wrapping is performed with the jar and secured with the rubber bands. After that, sample is immediately placed with in a container with dry ice. After that, we say that we placed cardboard or paper on the top of the sample containers that place dry ice on top to prevent breakage and to maximize cooling. After that, we discuss that ship and store air samples on dry ice at minus 70 degrees centigrade until analysis. Similarly, we discuss about some compounds are less volatile, and less volatile compounds are kept at minus 18 degrees centigrade. An analytical chemist will decide about the volatility or storage stability of the pesticide of interest. And we may use freezer, refrigerator, blue ice, or wet ice to store the air samples. And it is preferable to store pesticide residue at minus 70 degrees centigrade. At the end of lecture, we discuss that the difference between dry ice and blue ice. And we said that dry ice is frozen or compressed carbon dioxide, whereas blue ice occurs when snow falls on a glacier and is compressed and becomes a part of glacier. Air bubbles are squeezed out and ice crystals enlarge, making the ice appear blue. So, at the end, we discuss the difference of dry ice and blue ice. So, this is all about of our third lecture of air analysis. That's all. Allah Hafiz.